Welcome to Filthy, a Philadelphia Eagles podcast. I'm your host, Brad Wakai, alongside my co-host, Tyson Gentry. Tyson, it's a bye week for the Eagles. I was texting my brother, who's also an Eagles fan. He said, thankfully, because after that Cowboys game, I think we all needed a mental break.
A little decompression session for the boys was probably needed. It also turned into a bit of a body bag game. Like Slay was out for a couple plays, and then he was back in. Bradbury was out for a couple plays, he was back in. But the big one, obviously, Dallas Goddard here. And we talked about it in the trade deadline show and in the preview for the trade deadline show how the tight end depth is a little scary, and Dallas seems to miss time every year. It hadn't happened yet. But this is almost the same time last year where he missed 5 games after the Commanders thing. So we're not mad at Dallas Goddard for getting his forearm broken. It just is, it's good timing with the bye, and it's unfortunate with the schedule this team has after the bye.
Yeah, and I think, when they traded for Albert earlier, maybe this was a thought. He hasn't quite settled in, I think, like we expected, right? Like he's a super talented guy, but we need to see more from him. This is an opportunity for him to really make a name for himself, I think.
I think he might just be another one of Howie's pet projects at
Yeah.
tight ends, like the super freak athletes that are huge. We're still holding out for Tyree Jackson.
Well, he's on the
I
Giants
know.
practice squad,
Well,
unfortunately.
everybody's waiting for him. Like
I
it's a
know.
thing in the NFL. These people, they love these big athletic tight ends. Unfortunately, most of them can't block. And if you can't block, you can't play.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. But Tyson, as we set up that primer, we're going to get into our mid-season report card. Now, we did our quarter poll report card. Similar thought. We're going to go through the coaches. We're going to go through the entire position group and give our grade for what we've seen for him so far. So, tight end's going to be hard to judge now that Goddard's out, but we're going to do it as what we've seen with the expectation that Dallas Goddard returns. Maybe we'll preview a little bit about what we expect without him as well. But Tyson, we got to start with the head man, Nick Sirianni. What is your grade for the head coach?
It's still A plus. It's the same thing that it was. The last time we did this, he'll get the highest grade from me as long as the team keeps winning games. Um, the Miami Dolphins game was probably the biggest regular season game of his career to that point, passed with flying colors. The Cowboys game last week was even bigger than that, and they passed. It wasn't necessarily with flying colors. I thought the challenge on the Dak Prescott sneak, I don't know if he got it, but that was a I'm tilted right now. I'm chucking this thing. I don't even care. We're not going to wait for somebody to buzz down. So those things, are maybe things that you can get upset with him for. But I kind of like that out of my head coach. Like he's fired up. He's ready to roll. And as long as the team keeps showing up and whooping ass, like what else do you want him to do?
I'm A plus as well, man. 8-1, best record in the NFL. This was a year that people thought the Eagles could take a step back and would take a step back. It's been the opposite. Now, has it looked perfect? No. Are there still things they need to improve on? Of course. Tyson, I got to say, I'm glad that there's things they need to improve on. And I know people are using that as a knock on the Eagles. I would much rather them be able to peak at the right time and start playing their best football late in the season than if they came out and they looked unbelievable 4 games into the season. It was perfect. Like the Bills have the last few years, and then there's nowhere else to go, and they regress. It's not the case with this Eagles team. There's still things to work on. There's still things need to work out. But for them to still be winning football games, they're 8-1 in the NFL. It's an A plus for Sirianni. How could it not be?
And he gets to keep motivating, right? Nobody believes in him still. So he gets to keep kind of peddling that to the guys.
Okay, let's go to the offensive coordinator, Brian Johnson. Now, we didn't necessarily give him favorable marks in our quarter poll report card. What are you giving Brian Johnson now?
I'm really kind of struggling with this one because he's gotten better over the course of the season, and I think that's to be expected, obviously. But there are certain times, like 3rd and 3, and it's a go ball to AJ Brown. That's why are we doing that? What is that? Why are little things like the opening play to Lamade Zacchaeus where it's kind of shallowed out and it picks up, whatever the yardage was. I don't remember, but that should have been a 25-yard play last weekend. And those are play call issues. And those are things that are still legitimate concerns as to why this team maybe won't win the Super Bowl. Is I think that Brian Johnson, a lot of that is going to be on his head if that's the way the season goes. I think I'm going to go B minus.
Mm,
I like it's
okay.
a slight bump from where he was at the beginning, and maybe I'm being a little bit too generous, or maybe I'm being too harsh. Let me know what you guys think, but they've certainly gotten better. It just still feels like there's times when it's like, man, why are you? That's what we drew up here, or that's the first 15 plays of the game, are those ones? Like, why?
Yeah, I'm a little more harsher than you. I'm going to go C minus, and I think he has gotten better. So I want to. I know people are just done with him, and they're like, "Well, he just sucks. Like this guy sucks. Like he needs to be done." I don't necessarily know that. This guy's been an offense coordinator for 9 games. Like, can we allow him to grow into the position? And I know people don't want to hear that because this is a ready-made roster, and it should be winning now. And when you see Shane Steichen coaching the way he's coaching offensively at the Indianapolis Colts, you're like, oh man, it'd kind of be nice to have that here. But that's not the reality. People get promoted and things like that. So for the Eagles, you have to figure out ways to replace that production. I don't think Brian Johnson has quite done that yet, but Tyson starting to get a little better. The EPA is improving. Jalen Hurts continues to
Red
be
zone.
an elite passer. The red zone is starting to get better, but there are still issues that we need to work out. So I'm going to go C minus here for Brian Johnson. How about our defensive coordinator, Sean Desai? Incredible game against the Dolphins, but what would you give him so far at the midseason?
It's tough because it feels like the grades fluctuate game to game or series to series sometimes with Sean Desai and the way that we all feel about this Eagles defense. I think I'm just going to stick at a solid B here. Maybe I'd be a little bit. I did, take a lot of education courses in college, so maybe I'm just being a little bit too nice to some of the guys today. But the defense has been solid, and when they're bad, like those Reds Commanders games, excuse me, was that was just bad. Like that's tough to even work up an excuse for why the team looks like that against Washington. And the way they looked in the second half against Dallas again was atrocious. They allowed 6 points. It's really hard to be upset in the NFL when your defense allows 6 points and a half. And I know it felt like, holy smokes, they can't stop a nosebleed right now. Kind of felt like Jim Schwartz a little bit, where it was like, all right, as soon as we're inside the 20, it's clamps now.
Yeah, I'm giving him a C, and I've been a
You
big
were
Sean
way
Desai
higher than
fan.
him. Yes.
Dude, I think I gave him an A at the quarter
Yeah.
poll. So this is why I'm giving him a C, and maybe
Works
it's
out
not
to a B
necessarily
both
his fault.
ways.
Right. Okay. Fair enough. Yeah. Well, what is it? The curve. We'll grade on the curve.
Yes, yes.
I think this is why I'm reduced. It's not necessarily his fault, and we'll get into it. The secondary is atrocious, so he doesn't have a lot to work with there. The reason why I'm knocking him a bit is the sacks and the pressures. I'm just not seeing it against elite offensive lines, Tyson. And it's nice when you can just go, hey, 4 guys go and pass rush. Let's generate pressures, and then we can help out our secondary a little bit. Hasn't quite worked out that way in spots. Now, in the big moments, I mean, the defense has come through, but it just hasn't quite been as dynamic. And I think against the Dolphins, we're like, dude, this guy's amazing. This is what we got him for. And then there's games against the Commanders, and then there's games against the Cowboys where you're sitting there like, holy shit, man, this defense is brutal. So I'm going to go C.
One of the reasons that I think right now I'm a little higher on him than I was, when we did the first one, and why I might be higher on him right now than you are, because you were, out of the two of us, you were much higher on Desai here last time we did this. Stopping that Dolphins offense gives me a lot of confidence going against the San Francisco 49ers, because that's going to be the team that you're going to have to see at some point in the playoffs. That's the way this thing's kind of shaping up. And to be able to just show that, like, I can do things to these timing offenses that a lot of these coordinators aren't doing, makes you feel really good, because if Johnny Gans was still here, man, you'd be in big trouble against those kind of offenses. And those are the teams that are fighting for the top spots right now.
Let's get into our first player, Jalen Hurts, the quarterback. The dude is playing hurt. The dude is a warrior, a cyborg, as we call him, man. I mean, this guy is just relentless. What's your grade for the QB so far?
I think I have to go A minus. I don't truly believe that he's been the best quarterback in the league so far, but I also don't think he's been as bad as people have been saying in the last, since we did this, right? Since the first 4 weeks when we first did this, it's a different quarterback. It's a different player. Jalen Hurts has been phenomenal. It's just that Jets game happened to happen since we did that last one. And that interception is what keeps this from being a solid A or an A plus for me, because he's missing certain things sometimes, and it becomes really easy to sit on your couch and watch a TV copy and like you're yelling at he's wide open right there, but we don't know necessarily if that guy's even a read in the progression. Like maybe Jalen, when you have AJ Brown or Devontae Smith and they're one on one, I'm a little hard pressed to imagine that he's not instructed to like, hey, you can let that thing rip when those are the matchups. Overall, like he's a winning football player and he's going to win games. And I think that Jets interception is an anomaly. It's a blip. It's something that he hasn't repeated. And the turnovers are coming back to earth. He just faced down the most turnover hungry team in the Dallas Cowboys and didn't give the ball. Oh, they tried, but they didn't give it away.
They tried. They tried. I'm going to go an A for myself, Tyson. And it's a lot of what you said about him winning football games. But the other thing, too, if your quarterback is going to stand back in that pocket, just get his ass beat, knowing that he's already banged up, and to just relentlessly come at you again and again, make throws, be a reason why this team's winning, that goes a long way for the team. And they've said it as much too. Like they've like, dude, like we know he's banged up. Like he's a warrior. Inspires a lot because nobody cares when the linebackers have got hurt ribs, right? No,
Right.
nobody like come on, make a tackle. It's like, dude, like if you had these ribs, you'd be in bed. And now you expect me to tackle another grown man. But when it's a quarterback, we're like Jalen Hurts, man, he just doesn't look right. Like everybody's concerned about it. So when he doesn't mention anything, goes out there and does his job and does it well, I think that goes a long way for this football team. So I'm going to give Jalen Hurts an A. How about this? Let's go to the running backs because DeAndre Swift was red hot when we did our quarter season report card. Tyson has come back to earth a little bit. So I'm curious what you give this group.
Yeah, I'm going to say C plus. I think overall it's still been a little better than I expected preseason. I'm a DeAndre Swift fan. I have been for a long time. I didn't, think that he was going to come out like put the team on his back the way he did. That Vikings game, that Buccaneers game was actually a better running performance from him. Just the numbers didn't necessarily back that up as far as box score scouting goes. It's come back to earth pretty hard. They're struggling to run the football in the way that we kind of know and expect, or we've come to expect them to run the football. But it's also Boston Scott's been hurt. Kenny Gainwell, yes, he gets the ball too much, but he gets the ball in weird spots, and he's also been hurt. And then Swift, obviously, like I think he's fourth in the league right now in rushing yards, so it's hard to be like, oh man, this rushing offense can't get it going. But 70 yards a game isn't going to be enough to get to where this team wants to go. Look, we all got to watch Miles Sanders on Thursday night barely play, right? So that kind of cushions things a little bit and maybe made me feel a little better about this running back room. But out of all the position groups over the last 4 weeks, this is the one that's definitely come back to earth the most.
DeAndre Swift's third in the league, 614, only 1 yard behind Zach Moss, 9 ahead of Raheem Mostert, who everybody was talking about, right? Like, wow, look at this Dolphins run game. It's actually been Swift who has more rushing yards. Everybody trailing Christian McCaffrey. Tyson, I'm going to go with B, and I think it's been in the spotlight. It has come back to earth, so I want to definitely preface what I'm about to say with the thought that it's come back to earth, and that can be worrisome, and we're like kind of waiting for this thing to pick up. Okay, the Eagles are tied for fourth in EPA per rush, only negative 0.01. That's really good. We think of the Titans, really good rushing team, negative 0.05. Lions have rushed the ball very good, negative 0.06. The San Francisco 49ers, right? Woo, run game, baby. Yeah, negative 0.06. So quietly in advanced stats, and again, this is one of the things of why we bring these in. I think it's a different way to look at things. This running game is not totally bad, although it's been quiet. So I'll go with B for the running backs. I think there's still things to improve on, like you pointed out very well. They're going to have to take that next step, right? Like it just can't. Like if Swift gets hurt, that's when I get nervous. But I think Gainwell's been effective in the short yardage situations and things like that. So I'll go B for the running backs. How about the tight end? So this is where we can kind of go through some things, right? Because Dallas Goedert's hurt, so we do want to evaluate before. Do we want to project going forward? So kind of take that how you want, Tyson. But what's the grade that you're going to give the tight end group?
I think I'm just going flat C. Like
okay.
When you factor in everything, Dallas has, again, it's just another year where Dallas Goedert is quietly like a top 5 actual tight end in the NFL, but the numbers aren't there to necessarily back up that claim. So everyone gets mad at us when we want him over this guy or that guy and whatever fake top 5 list somebody's doing. The issue, Brad, is like when they're not involved in the game, this offense looks different. And when they're hyper focused on let's get Dallas three targets early, the offense looks different. They haven't found a happy medium of a way to just kind of get, especially Goddard and really only Goddard, right? Because Jack Stoll is going to come in and block basically. And Grant Calcaterra, we're hopeful that he can come back from this latest stint on the IR with the concussion and be good to go. But this is a guy that had to medically retire in college from concussion. So it's not. I don't think you're holding your breath that Grant Calcaterra is going to come back and save you in that tight end room. So with Dallas Goedert, I'd be a little bit nicer here, but it's not necessarily the tight end's fault. It's just a weird kind of distribution of targets, and it's not very apparent when you look at the end of the game and you see, oh, he got 6, but he got 3 on the first drive and he got 3 on the first drive out of halftime, and then they didn't look at him again.
Yeah, and I'm similar. I'm giving them a C as well, and it's a lot of similar things. What you said, it doesn't feel like the tight end has been featured in this offense quite as much as years past.
There's no screens. We're not getting the 2nd and 10 Dallas Goedert easy money screen.
True. That's actually, I didn't even think about that. Whether that's Brian Johnson, whether that's Jalen Hurts, whether that's the defenses are focusing more on taking away the tight end, because like you said, it has been a big part of this offense. Not quite sure, right? Like we're not necessarily breaking down film and completely diving into what the offensive coaches and are seeing here, but I will give them a C because I think it's just been super average. I don't think there's any other way to put it. Like, yeah, so Dallas Goedert, like you said, Tyson, he's 47th in the league with 410 receiving yards.
Yeah,
pretty good, right? Like it's good. You got you got Travis Kelce. Like now this is an anomaly, but he's got 597. Where's TJ Hawkinson at? He's at 547. So those are the tight ends that you kind of compare yourself to a little bit. And maybe that's where Dallas Goedert should be because he's talented enough at that level. I'm a little concerned about the blocking here without Goddard going forward. So that's one thing that I want to keep my eye on. And then we're really going to see how deep this tight end room becomes because, man, if like you said, if we eliminate this tight end position in the offense, it's going to be dicey for the receivers.
Do you think Julio fills in at all, like route wise? He's not going to put his hand to the ground, but I think some of those looks might end up filtering to Julio Jones because, like, we like Jack Stoll, but he's not Julio Jones, and he's not going to provide you with any sort of positional advantage against the linebacker.
Yeah, Julio, I think is definitely going to be running those routes, right? Like, I think where Goddard lines up, like maybe he's like in the slot, like instead of putting his hand in the dirt, he just kind of bumps out and he's just in the slot and runs the same type of routes in the formation. So, if you got Julio Jones, why not use him, man? I think this is a perfect time to use your new toy.
And one thing to keep in mind on the Dallas Goedert injury last year, when Dallas went out, was when Smitty started exploding. And maybe that happens again because I know that there's been a lot of Eagles fans that are like, man, AJ's awesome, but also like we like skinny Batman too.
Devontae Smith, 533 yards this season. So that brings us into wide receivers. Like you said, AJ Brown's been sick. Devontae Smith, not quite the year he had last year, but what do you give this receiver group?
I think you're hard pressed to go below an A. Like when you look across the league, I know a lot of that is being carried by AJ Brown, and that's okay. Like when a wide receiver has 1,000 yards halfway through the season, what else? Like what else are you supposed to do? You're going to punish the rest of the position group because his target share hasn't even gone up that much. He's just catching everything. And he's like scoring all the time. And Devontae Smith, since basically that Commanders game, it's like every week now you can kind of set your watch. Oh, there's going to be a 25-yard pop play at some point, maybe a deep shot. Smitty's getting more and more involved in the offense. Still a little worried about that wideout 3 spot, but I think OZ has handled it well enough where you're kind of not worried about it. And Quez is going to walk back in here soon. So we'll see, how that kind of works out. But, dude, 125 yards in 6+ games. 1,000 yards before week 9. It's what do you want?
Yeah, today. Come on. And I love how everybody's like, well, if you take out AJ Brown, then it's like, okay, if you take out Patrick Mahomes, what's the Chiefs? You take out
if you take away all Mahomes touchdowns and yards, he's average.
Yeah, right. It's like, Well, the reality is the dude's on the team, and when he's not, then we can have that conversation. But 11's out there, so you got to grade him that way. And yes, so 67 receptions, Tyson, 92 targets. That's a lot, right? But let's kind of put it in perspective here. Diggs has 97 targets, Tyreek 97, Nakua 96, Chase 93, and then you have AJ Brown, the fifth most targeted at 92. Okay, you should do that when you have AJ Brown on your freaking team. Like, I don't think you can take away anything from the Eagles. Like, that's the reason why you went out and got that guy, so you could throw him the ball and so you can have this production. You pointed out well. I think this is when Devontae Smith starts turning the corner, starts really producing here in the back half without Dallas Goedert, and he's going to need to. And then the third receiver, if you're going to have AJ Brown and Devontae, maybe the third receiver is a little overblown, but I don't know. I just they're doing pretty well right now, 8-1.
Does anybody in the league make more almost catches than Devontae Smith? And for some reason, he gets awarded them every time, and the Eagles just kind of run to hurry up and go right away. But it's like once a week with this guy where it's like, I don't know if he caught that, but they're saying he did, so we're gonna run with it.
Let's transition to the offensive line, Tyson. Viewed as one of the best in the league, and I think they have been one of the best in the league. I don't think you can take that away from them. I think this year maybe you can see a little bit of regression.
Sure.
What are you giving them?
It's. I mean, I'm going to say B plus, and I know that's like sacrilegious in some spots of Eagles fandom here. It's been really hard to judge kind of how Suo-Opeta looks and how, like, when Tyler Steen is in the game, how he looks, because Cam Jurgens is a starting right guard, and he's coming back after the bye here. So I think that'll help stuff because, like, Lane Johnson's looked a little bit like not gettable, but there's been times where he's been got to this point in the season. I think a lot of that is just there's a rotating door of who's playing next to him right now, and that's tough to deal with. That left side of the line, man, like Jordan Mailata and Landon Dickerson, it's really hard to find a better left side of an offensive line in the NFL. You have the best center in the league, or at least one of them. The Kelsey love it's really cool to see, but it is like making me nervous that people are going to flip on this guy for no reason because it's like he's in the middle of a broadcast. There's a drive going on. It's 4th down, and they're talking about him being the sexiest man alive. Like it's a lot of love right now for Jason Kelsey, rightfully so. But I think Lane hasn't been like all world at this point in the year. Kelsey hasn't been like far and away. He's way better than every other center in the league. Mailata is leading PFF grades for whatever that's worth to you people out there, but dude, it might be a down year, and they might be the 3rd best unit in the league.
Yeah, so I'm going to go B minus. You kind of talked me into maybe I'm being a little harsh on them because Lane is banged up. I think it's clear that the Eagles need him out there because when he's not out there, my goodness, MVP, it just I don't know. I don't know what's going on necessarily, Tyson. I was trying to give up or trying to find pressures given up because it feels like Jalen Hurts has been under duress more this year than he has in the past. That's not to say that the line's not doing a good job necessarily. I think a lot of the times sacks are a quarterback stat as well. Like they have to get rid of the ball. They have to feel the pressure and they have to adjust to that. But it doesn't – maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I could be completely off. But when I'm watching and I'm looking at it, it doesn't feel like the offensive line has been as dominant as it has in years past. Maybe that's because Jurgens is out. So we had a leaky point on that offensive line. But I will say, now this doesn't have anything to do with these midseason grades. I'm nervous for the day when freaking Lane Johnson and Jason Kelsey aren't part of this offensive line. And I don't know, Eagles fans don't want to think about it, but I'm starting to get nervous because without those two, holy smokes.
Yeah, we'll be in some trouble for sure. It's Stoutland University, baby. They'll pump somebody else through there, and I think they'll be okay. But one thing I think that's important to keep in mind is like we're comparing them to maybe the best offensive line group, at least in like the modern era of football last season by all advanced metrics. So it's hard, when that's the bar. We're not going to sit here and say A plus.
Okay, defensive line. It hasn't been quite the same as last year, but what are you giving the D-line so far?
I think the D-line has been really good. I don't think they've been great. I'm going to say B plus here as well. Just Jordan Davis, awesome to start the year. And now kind of like banged up a little bit, and the pop plays aren't there. Not that you're expecting a ton of like, holy smokes, did you see what the defensive tackle on the rundown did when he was getting double teamed? Like it's hard for him to explode off the screen sometimes. Jalen Carter, still amazing. I know the numbers aren't like crazy as they were through the first 5 or 6 games of the year. He's been banged up. Look, Josh Sweat is one of the 10 best edge rushers in the league. Hassan Reddick is one of probably the 5 or 6 best edge rushers in the league. Brandon Graham and Derek Barnett would play on all 32 teams. Those defensive tackles would play on all 32 teams. They probably start on all 32 teams. It's hard to be mad, man. And at the end of the game, when it's time to win the football game, who's won all of these things? Hassan Reddick is racing you to the quarterback. Josh Sweat is getting there to beat the Cowboys. Like you can, I think 3 of the wins or 4 of the wins at this point in the season have been solidified by this defensive line, and that's not something that happens in the NFL.
I'm gonna go with B. I think you were much more positive in viewing it than me. Something feels different. Like, yes, and you're right. The players are awesome. They're not getting home like they did last year. And I don't know why.
Honestly. You're comparing him to another like outlet. That's a high bar, man. Was it 70?
Yeah, well, I guess I'm not necessarily saying the sacks, because I think you can still dominate a game with not getting the quarterback on the ground. It just feels like at times the quarterbacks have been very, very comfortable back there. I'm like, dude, our D line, and if they're not going, I mean, this secondary is going to get shredded up. We'll get to them here shortly. But I'm going to go B. I'm still impressed with what I've seen. They're still awesome. They still rotate elite players in and out of the game. Just, oh man, I don't know. To this point, I just haven't been overly impressed, but I think it'd be harsh for me to not give them a B. How about the linebackers? We were concerned coming in. This is a spot where you're like, dude, this group sucks. We could be in trouble. What have you seen so far from the linebackers?
Well, Zach Cunningham is the best linebacker on the team, and I don't think that's like very debatable at this point. Brad, it's tough to judge a linebacking group when you start a game with 3 guys, and then the next down is 2 of those 3 guys and a new 3rd guy, and then you just kind of rotate that like it's Dean, Cunningham, and Morrow, and then one of them is out. Well, whoever else is in for a while, Edmonds was walking down in the box or whatever it was. Look, I think Cunningham's been awesome. I think Morrow leaves a lot to be desired. I think Nakobe Dean leaves a lot to be desired, and I know he's been hurt, and we've been waiting on this guy for a while now. I don't know if we're going to get it, man. It just feels like there's 2 kind of linebackers, right? That like for a long time that Howie wanted the draft was like the project guy and the toolsy guy that we could mold into your Davion Taylor type, that you can kind of mold into a really good player. And then we were all clamoring for like, just get the guy that played a bunch of games and knows where he's supposed to be and what he's supposed to do. And then Kobe Dean walks through the door and we're all hype. He might there might be a reason that those medical red flags weren't the only reason that he fell in the NFL draft there. He's a little slow. He's a little small. He's not like a high impact player, but the linebackers aren't the reason this team is getting cooked all the time.
Right.
But some of the time it is on the linebacker. Like when it feels like TJ Edwards is back there sometimes on these option or choice routes out of the backfield because they have no shot. There's no shot that they're going to stop these guys. If I have to give a grade, I'm going to say C. Yeah. I think they've been fine.
Okay, C, fair enough. And also, your boy TJ Edwards is leading the NFL in tackles.
But my boy Alex Singleton has been leading the NFL in tackles for 10 years. And
I know.
We don't care about that either.
Well, it's funny.
Tough. Linebacker's a hard position to kind of like, you can't look at stats and be like,
right,
oh, that guy's super good.
I agree. And I think that's, if I would say one thing about Howie, and this is getting into a little bit of a tangent, he does not evaluate the linebacker position well. It's not all Howie. I mean, it's his scouting department. When's the last time the Eagles had a freaking good linebacker in their – no, TJ Edwards going, that sucks. And now he's doing well. Alex Singleton letting them leave. It's like, man.
Jordan Hicks maybe was like a good player on the Eagles?
Yeah, I think so. I think that's a good point. And then they let him out the building. You know, they weren't going to pay him that contract. But the talent evaluation for this group has not been good throughout the years. But I digress, Tyson. I'm going to give them a B. I'm a little bit higher on them than you. And I think it's because the expectations coming in was that this unit sucks. What the hell? Zach Cunningham has been an absolute star for this Eagles defense. I know people are like, he was cut from the Titans, not because he sucks, but because of a cap casualty.
He's making $40 million.
And he's showing it in Philly. He's a run stuffer. He's flying across all over the field. And it sucks that Nakobe Dean is injured once again. But I agree with everything that you said. We may never see it. This might be who he is. And if that's the case, the Eagles need to go find a new green dot. because you can't have your green dot missing time, and potentially waiting to be that burgeoning star. Like you got to get an established guy.
Please let Christian Ellis play. That's all we're asking for. We just want to watch. That's all we heard all offseason, all the beat reporters. Man, this Christian Ellis guy can play. I watched him for 4 years at Idaho just rip up the FCS. He was a really good college player. What's the harm, man? Because if Morrow's not getting sent on a blitz, he might as well, like, he's just a traffic cone at some points.
Ooh, baby. Tyson bringing the heat on the linebackers. Here's what we got to bring the heat on. How about this secondary? Come on, man. Let's get into it. You go. Just start ripping into them if you want.
Well, this is why the team won't win the Super Bowl if they don't. It'll be on the secondary. It's not a secret, and it was fun, for parts of the Dolphins game where it was like, holy smokes, like these corners are doing this and that, and then Tyreek busts bracket coverage just with straight speed. And it's like, oh, that's going to be an issue probably. I think James Bradbury is a lot closer to the cliff than I imagined he would be, because it feels like it's coming, man, and it feels like it could be here. That's kind of
the vibe. Dangling.
Yeah, that's the vibe I'm getting. I think Slay's been as advertised. He's not been great, and he hasn't been good at certain points in the season, but other times it's like, look, man, Slay's going to go out there and make the play. And that's his MO, and that's his game. And you knew that before the season was going. They don't have a lockup. They don't have a true number one. Kevin Byard hasn't been good since he's been here. I'm going to hold off all judgment on that just because he's been here for 21 days?
Right.
25 days. It's hard. So we'll know more after the bye. It's just tough when Reed Blankenship's been your best secondary player, and this is an undrafted guy. And we like Reed, but there's a lot of investment in the secondary here. And, that's not necessarily what you'd want to see. I think Eli Ricks is probably going to be a player for this team for 5 or 6 seasons. I'm not head over heels with him.
You hate him, dude.
Some people are.
Look,
dude,
him.
He's grabby.
I like him.
He's real grabby, and I think it's going to become a problem. But look, we don't have to watch Mario Goodrich anymore, and that's a win. So I think for the secondary as a whole, I'm gonna say D+, dude, because it's bad. And I don't care so much about the numbers. The way it feels to me is that there are probably 20 wide receivers right now that if they lined up for ones, you would put your money on to beat James Bradbury. And he's the most important member of that secondary at the moment. Look, it'd be fun if Avonte Maddox didn't get hurt every year, but that's where we're at.
Yeah.
If he was out here playing nickel, or if Bradley Roby was healthy, it'd be a different look. But as constructed, this is the reason the team won't go where they want to go.
You are much more positive on them than me, Tyson. My goodness, what's going on here? Normally, I'm the negative or the positive guy here.
It's all that. Yeah, I'm on antibiotics or something. That's got to be what's going on.
Yeah, I guess so. Because I'm giving them a freaking F, man. This secondary stinks. It's horrible. It's bad. They're getting dissected by average. I mean, they made Sam Howell look like freaking forget Tom Brady. I mean, they're like Peyton Manning in his heyday when he was setting records. Nice. It was absurd. Now, okay, coming back to earth a little bit here. Is it a scheme thing? Is it a talent thing? I don't know. Again, we're not in the film room. We don't know what the size saying. Is it a switch up from what Gannon did last year where, hey, let's not give up the big play to a much more aggressive style? That could be it too. It's bad, dude. Third and 15s, cross the middle of the field, corners.
They're free. No, what's worse than the 3rd and 15 when they just give it away is when they give you 11 yards and it's 4th and 4, and then we all know the next one is free. It's just this team can't get off the field, man.
No, it's tough. It is tough. And so when the defensive line doesn't get home, they're sitting ducks back there, man. They're going to get absolutely destroyed. So what I want to see from the secondary, figure it out. Are they going to become one of the top units? I think it's too beyond that right now. Can they become serviceable where the Eagles go win the Super Bowl? Because I agree with you. If they don't win the Super Bowl, it's on the secondary.
If they become average, this team has a really good shot.
Oh my God. If they become average, dude, there's no way anybody's beating them.
That's what I think too.
Right? Just be instead of being number one, like we're number one, we're number 15. That's all.
Yeah, we'll take 15, dude. We'll take 22 right now at this point.
That's true. All right, let's close it here. Let's go with the special teams. Got to give our boys some love on the special teams side. We were very positive on special teams at the quarter pole. What are you doing for midseason?
Oh, I'm still positive, dude. Britton Covey's back there looking like freaking Dante Hall, and is no, I'm just kidding. But it is nice to see a guy that we were ragging on before the season, and it was like, dude, we're sick of these 7-yard returns. Like, bust something. And then all of a sudden, it's like, oh, Britton Covey is leading the league in yards per return here. Jake Elliott is a monster. I think you'd be hard pressed to talk me out of the fact that he's at worst right now the second best kicker in the league. He just is. Like, I think it's him and Justin Tucker for guys that I would be comfortable trotting out there to go win a game. And then don't tell anybody, Brad. But Braden Mann's been pretty good.
I know.
Which is a welcome sight, something we did not expect. And that could easily flip here. And that, again, we talk about the fumble and we talk about not forcing Mahomes to have any incompletions hardly in the second half and the wide open touchdowns and the motions and getting tricked. If Siposs just hits that punt a little better, this Eagles team might have won the Super Bowl last year. So it's a big deal. It's a big deal that Braden Mann is playing well. I'm going to say A. I think I was a little higher on him at the quarter pole. The coverage teams just need to be a little better. It's still – there still feels like – I know Kevontae Turpin is awesome, but it was like, of course he took it to the 50. That's the way this thing is going to work.
I'm with you. A for special teams. Jake Elliott. It's been awesome. Of course, we knew that. We're Eagles fans. We watch every week. We know what's going on with Jake Elliott. When he kicks, he doesn't miss. That's at least the feeling that we have.
As long as it's under or over 40, I know for sure it's going in every time.
Covey, the guy I've been so critical of. I was sending you rants and texts about how he stinks, how we need to get a real punt returner. And he just gave me the middle finger. I was like, "Oh yeah, watch what I do this year." He's been good. There's been some explosiveness to this return game.
He's got your boy Devin Allen doing his laundry, dude.
Dude, is he on? I know they brought him up for the kick return one time, but I was like, "Dude, here we go, my boy Devin Allen," and nothing happened. I was like, But I agree with you for the punting. It's been welcome sight. I mean, there's distance on it. Are you kidding me? We haven't had that in
hang years. Time. Not one has been shanked directly out of bounds so far.
Yeah.
It's little things like that when and we just went through that whole list. I think Siri was the only one that got an A+ from either one of us. The team is sitting at 8-1. The team is, they have the best record in the league. They have a better shot, I think, of getting through this next stretch of games, not unscathed, but relatively fine. If they win 4 out of if you include the Cowboys game, that 6-game stretch, if they go 4-2, they're walking to the number 1 seed in the NFC, and they set themselves up to do that very well. If they go 3-3, they're still in the hunt for the number 1 seed. So we might have sounded a little harsh on some of these, like giving a group an F when the team is 8-1. But this is supposed to be a Super Bowl team, and there are parts of this thing that aren't. We can bitch and complain about everybody being like, yeah, but the Eagles aren't as good as last. It just feels different, right? And then we're all sitting here like, it doesn't, but we know it does. It feels a little different. It doesn't feel like 2022, and it's not going to. And this team, I think, is still going to win the Super Bowl, and they're not going to look great one time.
You saw the graphic that Fox put up last week that teams have made the Super Bowl to go 8-1 the next year. All 3 of them previously did that, won the Super Bowl. The Eagles are the 4th team to do that. So either the Eagles are legitimately cursed if they don't win this year,
or just trendsetters would be what that was.
I guess. Yeah, I'm gonna go cursed because I like to play the victim a little bit more. But Dyson, before we get out of here, let's look at this. So we
got to do MVP.
Oh yeah, we haven't done that. You're right. Who's the MVP?
I think it's Jalen Hurts. I want to say A.J. Brown. I still want to say Josh Sweat, to be honest, because that was my quarter pole pick, and I don't think he's done anything to talk me off that. I love Josh Sweat. It's got to be Jalen Hurts, man. The last couple weeks, since the Jets game onward, it's like this dude might just be playing the best football in the NFL. He might just be.
Yeah, it's hard. It's hard for me not to give it to Hurts either. Dude's playing on one leg. Everybody's
efficiently really
too. Everybody's it's really going to slow down the Eagles' offense because everybody just views Jalen Hurts as a runner. This dude's an elite thrower of the football. He's dicing up teams, and I'm glad he's able to show it now. To be honest, because we've seen it as Eagles fans. We know how good of a thrower he can be and how he's gotten and to where he's gotten. I think everybody else is starting to realize it too. And so to show the different levels, because Tyson, let's be honest, man, Jalen Hurts, he wasn't always going to be able to run around the way he did. So to have this element
He's
of where he
better
can
in the
beat you,
pocket.
he's better in the pocket. It's great. I love it. So that I think this you got to be your MVP, man. The leader, playing hurt, it's going out there and still winning games. Come on, that's what you want.
This is our most media moment ever because we have to now give an Offensive Player of the Year award to AJ Brown, I guess. But whatever.
So that's our midseason report card. Before we get out of here, I just wanted to ask you this because everybody knows the Eagles are on a bye this week. At Chiefs on Monday Night Football. Home against the Bills the next week. Home against the Niners the following week. And then finish with at Cowboys, at Seahawks for this 5-game stretch. Everybody's talking about this stretch. I think everybody should be. And the Eagles, like if they lose all 5 games they don't expect, they're sitting at 8-6. It's a disaster. But I think they'll win a few. What do you think of this one? Where do you think their record is coming out of that?
I think that they lose to the Chiefs, and I think that they lose on the road at Dallas. And I've been saying I thought they were going to lose on the road at Dallas since, early in the season. That's just kind of the read that I have. It'd be fantastic to win those games. But I think at this point, I'm not scared of Buffalo walking into the link. I'm not scared of Seattle. I think that 4-2 was always the number I had in my head for this stretch. It's something I'd be pumped about, and I think that is very, very attainable. And they might get out of here at 5-1, which would be we're hanging a banner for that, baby. That'd be impressive.
If they get out of there at 5-1, if they don't win the Super Bowl, dude, imagine the last 2 years.
Yeah,
come on,
it's a disappointment.
It's a major disappointment. It'd be classic Philly sports, man. I know that. I agree with you. I think they lose to the Chiefs, lose to the Cowboys. Niners, that's going to be a tough game. I'm not scared of the Bills, not scared of the Seahawks. Niners is the one I think is the pivot game, right? You can go 2-3 here. You can go 3-2. There's a chance that they beat the Chiefs. There's a legit chance that they take that one seriously after the bye. Like, let's make a statement.
It's tough with Andy off a bye too.
But isn't that success a lot of times facing teams who aren't coming off a bye? Like, I'm not sure. I'm gonna have to dive into that.
True.
But
I guess we don't know that. Maybe we're giving Andy a bit too much respect as Eagles fans here, but he is one of the best coaches of all time. And look, dude, they got embarrassed against Denver, and then they didn't look very good at all in the second half against Miami. So, like, a rational person could look at that and say, that means good things for the Philadelphia Eagles. They might be able to go in there and stop them and everything else. But as NFL fans, we know that as long as freaking Patrick Mahomes has the ball, anything is possible. And that team is probably going to turn it around.
Okay, that's going to do it for our mid-season report card here on Filthy, a Philadelphia Eagles podcast. Tyson, anything you want to get off your chest? Anything you want to say before we get out of here?
No, I don't think so, man. Go Birds. What else is there to say? Your best record in the league.
Enjoy the bye week. Enjoy the little mental health break. Watch some football this weekend. Do a little couch scouting and see who the Eagles play for on this stretch and see how they look. And then tell us what record you think they're going to have during this gauntlet of a stretch. Enjoy the weekend. Let's get on to the Chiefs game with some positive momentum. Hopefully no injuries. Let's rest up. We will talk to you all after that game. We'll speak to you then, guys. Peace.